Good morning. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. General Counsel?
Good morning. As permitted by Governor Newsom's order of March 2020, all of the board members are teleconferencing from remote locations today. Also consistent with the governor's order, all public comment will be taken telephonically. We may announce a recess if we have difficulties or lose a quorum due to technical difficulties. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment should call 213-306-3065. Again, that number is 213-306-3065. When prompted, please enter 187-234-9544. Again, that prompt number is 187-234-9544. The secretary will call on you when it's your turn to speak. Please state whether you're speaking on a specific agenda item or on general public comment. You will have 2 minutes per item, up to a total of 5 minutes. Also, if you are calling in for public comment and are listening to the board meeting on a computer, please turn down your computer when offering public comment so that we don't get feedback. The acting board secretary will now take the role of commissioners present. Madam Secretary.
Vice President Reyes?
Present.
Commissioner BARAD Hopkins?
Present.
Commissioner LEHRER?
Present.
Commissioner NEEMAN BRADY? She will be joining shortly. So 3 members present and a quorum. I will now turn it over to Vice President Reyes.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure and privilege to chair the meeting today on behalf of President McLean Hill, who is not available. And for the opening remarks, it is also my pleasure and privilege to acknowledge and recognize our celebration of the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I have a few comments and a brief presentation that I would like our public and our constituents to hear. So to open it up, we are still celebrating the AAPI Heritage Month. It's not only a time to celebrate and honor AAPI cultures across the United States, but really to advocate for their equity and safety. And this year's theme is Unite, Empower, Rise, celebrating solidarity, belonging, and community. And we honor this theme by recognizing the significant contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in various industries. So I'm proud to lead a number of commemorative events together with all of you and mark this important month, especially in light of all the recent issues that our AAPI community has been experiencing. The AAPI community is facing real fears, concerns, and anxiety over the news of the attacks and acts of racial hatred here in our country. This is not new, but has finally come to light, and we need to really unite and stand by each other to stop the hate. So for the next slide, the first of 3 events was our AAPIs at LADWP. It's a cultural celebration. Our intention there was to promote cultural appreciation and understanding of the AAPI community, celebrating their diversity, not only in heritage, but in experience, personal histories, influences, and beliefs. To know a people, know their stories. And so we are so proud that we have the following employees presenting as part of the cultural celebration, and that was last Tuesday. Thank you to Deborah Hong, Lynn Fan, Michael Tsai, Michelle Saffield, Dean Terada, P. Joy Chua, Helen Olivares, Jeff Zong, Zijuan Chen, Clarice Rivera, Emil De Castro, Marilyn Stashak, Brian Lam, Ruwanka Prasinj, Jay Lim, Amanda An, and Sunny Cho. Thank you so much for your stories. We heard the impressive contributions that our AAPI colleagues bring to the department. And thank you to each of our volunteer employees for sharing a piece of your personal stories. And if there is one thing that I hope our colleagues take away is that the AAPI community is not monolithic, that perception leads to stereotypes and generalizations that couldn't be farther from the truth. So next slide, please. The next event that we hosted is a little bit on the serious topic of uplifting AAPIs, rising above stereotypes, discrimination, and hate. Thank you for everyone that we raised awareness about the rising discrimination. As you can see, we had a pretty good attendance on the first event and the second event. We had city experts at our panel, Assistant Chief Beatrice Germala, overseeing the 4 geographic bureaus, which cover the entire city of Los Angeles and all uniform patrol resources. She also oversees community outreach and development under the LAPD. We also had Commissioner Abigail Zelensky from the LA Department of Civil and Human Rights. And the Civil and Human Rights and Equity Department was established in December 2020, very new, and it's committed to ensuring that everyone in LA is informed of their rights and resources in order to live free from hate. And last speaker we had was Ms. Malaika Billups, the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer in the Personal Department's Office of Workplace Equity, who oversees the EEO division of the Personal Department while working and implementing citywide initiatives to promote diversity and inclusion. We are also pleased to have our General Manager, Marty, in both of those events to really express the department's commitment to equity and inclusion and to promote awareness about the AAPI celebration. Next slide, please. The next slide is the one that is a community event that we participated in Koreatown, but there are 5 locations for the Community Day of Service. We had Koreatown, Little Tokyo, Little Bangladesh, Thai Town, Chinatown, and historic Filipino Town. What a great day to really celebrate the event. And in the spirit of the Community Day of Service, DWP stands in support for a cause we care about. And by supporting each other, we come stronger together. And where we extend a hand, we can all be stronger in terms of our unity. And when we call for an end to hate, discrimination, and racism, we build a strong, involved, and safe communities. And next slide, please. And tomorrow, Wednesday, the city, led by the mayor's office, will launch the LA for All campaign to increase awareness about diversity and inclusion, bring communities together, and fight to combat hate and discrimination. And as you know, President Biden signed into law an order that would establish a position within the Department of Justice centered on anti-Asian hate crimes and allocating resources to enhance state and local cities so that they can improve hate crime reporting. So thank you, Marty, for your commitment and support, to all our employees who participated, and most especially to our awesome communications and publics team, Michelle Figueroa, Ellen Chang, Mia Rose Wong, Paula Adler, who you worked behind the scenes so hard. It made it seamless for all those events to happen. And to close, we have a very short video courtesy of ABC.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am Filipina.
I am a Chinese American.
I am a doctor.
A lawyer.
An actor.
I am not a bad driver.
And I don't know Kung Fu. I want empathy. I hope there will be a time when I'm no longer asked where I'm from. I want us to listen more and proclaim less.
I stand in solidarity
with people who choose kindness over hatred.
Celebrate yourselves. Share your stories. You matter.
I will stand up.
And with that, we can move to general public comment. Madam Secretary.
Good morning, callers. Please state your full name and the agenda item you will be speaking on. Please be mindful that you will have 2 minutes for comment. The first speaker is Wendy.
Just Yvette, I just want to make sure it's registered that I'm on.
Yes, Commissioner Neiman Brady has
Thank you,
joined.
Commissioner Neiman Brady.
The first public speaker will be Wendy Schneider.
Hello, this is Wendy Schneider. I am Executive Director of Friends of the Inyo. Madam Secretary, am I being heard?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. And I am calling to speak on agenda item 20, the draft urban water management plan. And let me start by saying I suspect that you've heard that the Eastern Sierra never gives LADWP credit, and I would like to begin with a thank you for the significance of the City of Los Angeles's water efficiency achievements in recent decades. Not only is the city using significantly less than it did in 1990 despite population growth, but ratepayers are saving money because of the conservation programs that have been so successful. I would also like to express support for the development of more local water supplies, including those initiated by Operation Next. And I would like to suggest a couple of changes to the Urban Water Management Plan draft that is now before you. First, I would like to request that it set higher water efficiency goals. A 2018 UCLA study indicated that additional savings could be achieved by 2035, further reducing gallons per capita per day from 104 down to 80 or maybe even 75. And the Urban Water Management Plan does not address any additional kind of efficiency goals that could be achieved. And this one is very achievable. And I believe that the plan, which sets forth goals for decades to come, should set a higher target goal. And I would also like to request that the Urban Water Management Plan initiate a coordinated, integrated water management plan between Los Angeles and the Eastern Sierra. We are all sharing the pain of climate change and drought, and we need to work together to develop solutions. I am requesting a meeting with the commissioners to discuss opportunities for collaboration, a meeting that would include tribal interests as well as community groups and nonprofits. And I've given my name, Wendy Schneider, Executive Director of Friends of the Inyo. I am very easy to find online, and I request that the commissioners contact me and let's set up a meeting so that we can work together. The deadline for comments to the Urban Water Management Plan is July 1st, so there are still 2 more board meetings in which the board could discuss changes to the draft plan and approve them. And I'll close by saying it's not easy to overcome more than a century of differences that our 2 regions have had about water management, but we must work together if we are to sustainably address the impacts of drought and climate change. Thanks so much.
Thank you. The next caller is Chris Ohaj.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Board of Commissioners. Manahu, Inani and Chris Ohag. Payahu Nadu Nu Ogimana. My name is Christopher Hohag. I'm calling you from beautiful Bishop, California this morning. I'm a citizen of the Bishop Paiute tribe as well as a descendant of the Mono Lake Kazetica. And also I'm Eastern Sierra Senior Organizer for the Sierra Club. And today I call in to recognize, I'm happy to see the support and efforts to recognize diversity and culture at LADWP. And I want to recognize the significance of the city's water efficiency achievement. I think that's really amazing, and we're paying attention, and we appreciate the efforts. With that said, we have to do a lot more regarding the management of water in the Eastern Sierra. The 25-year plan of the urban water management plan does not change anything with how water is treated in the Eastern Sierra, and therefore how the land and the people are treated in the Eastern Sierra. So in particular, in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would ask that, I would echo Wendy Schneider's request for collaborative management in the Eastern Sierra, as well as meetings with all stakeholders, including the tribes, which are not represented on the standing committee. Very important, because the health of our communities is at stake. We are subject to and victimized by dust storms, which are man-made. Our fields, our plants, our animals don't get water. And who speaks for them? We've had elders comment, what gives you the right to determine who lives and dies? So that is the power of this water up here. Water is life. We'll ask that you respect that and work with our people locally who live up here and our tribal nations to ensure that these places remain, because our people are being harmed by the dust storms. And of course, there's a whole lot more going on, because water is that important. And we ask that you really hear our local communities and don't just ramrod us into the next 25 years while you guys are saving all that wonderful water down there. Thank you. Mono.
Thank you. The next caller has area code 909. The last two digits of the number is 35. Please state your name and the item number you're speaking on. Caller, are you there? Area code 909. Let's move on. Next caller with the area code 805, last four digits of the phone number 14. Please state your name and the item you'll be speaking on.
Hello, my name is Melanie Rivera with LA Waterkeeper. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, board members. My name is Melanie Rivera, and I'm speaking on behalf of Los Angeles Waterkeeper for item 20. I just wanted to start out by saying that LA Waterkeeper really appreciates the opportunity to comment and appreciates all that the city is doing to enhance local, sustainable, and climate-friendly water supplies. We also appreciate most of what was outlined in the plan, but we felt that there were a few shortcomings. So first, the plan failed to aim for further conservation going into the future, which led to an overestimated demand projection. We realize that there are obligations to project demands based on a variety of factors, including SCAG population estimates. The recent demand trends show an overall decline and also a decoupling from population growth. We also feel that the plan falls short on quantifying already planned projects, including Operation Next and the Safe Clean Water Program. These programs will help Los Angeles in meeting the 70% local supply goal, as stated in the Mayor's Green New Deal, but the plan fails to quantify and recognize their full potential. And last, we believe that the plan should actually go beyond what is outlined in LA's Green New Deal. We now have a better understanding of our need for more aggressive sustainability goals in the face of a daunting climate crisis, and also of what is possible to achieve. We recognize that the Urban Water Management Plan is largely regulatory obligation for water agencies, but it also sends an important message about priorities and a vision for our water future. We've seen the impacts of poor water planning on our environment, climate, and communities, but we've also seen what we can achieve when we put our mind to it. So we ask that this agency uses this plan to send a bold message for a truly sustainable, climate-friendly, and local water future that will benefit all Angelenos. Thank you for your time and for your consideration of these comments.
Thank you. The next caller is Barsh Miller.
Good morning, Honorable Commissioners. My name is Barsh Miller, and I am the Eastern Sierra Policy Director with the Mono Lake Committee. And I'm commenting on the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Storage Contingency Plan. I want to commend Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and the city and their achievement in water efficiency with 106 gallons per capita daily use. This is a far cry from the 180 gallons per capita from circa 1990, and that's a savings of over 300,000 acre feet. Congratulations. It's amounted to billions in avoided costs to purchase water, treatment, and energy use, and it's saved on ratepayers' bills. I want to say that the Mono Lake Committee supports Los Angeles' local water supply development goals. We always have since the late 80s, early 90s. Mono Lake Committee was one of the first advocates for LA's efficiency and recycled water programs. We raised over $120 million in state and federal grants to support LADWP. Operation Next is a game changer for LA, and we offer our help in moving this initiative forward as quickly as possible. We request that LADWP Commission adopt the language from the Mayor's Green New Deal that identifies future 2035 goal of maintaining 100 gallons per capita daily, or increase the city's water efficiency goal to even higher level. Let's choose more efficiency if we can, please. Currently, the Urban Water Management Plan targets 12,000 acre-feet a year in new savings by 2040, but a UCLA 2018 estimate indicates that LA could save an additional 200,000 acre-feet a year by 2034 by reducing water use from 104 gallons per capita daily to 75 to 80 gallons per capita daily. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment, and look forward to working with DWP and the commissioners in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The next caller is area code 800, last two digits 97. Please state your name and the item you'll be speaking on. Area code 800, last two digits 97. Caller, are you there? I'll move on to the next caller. Oh, is she there? Is she there?
Okay.
Are you there, caller? Okay, next caller, area code 626, last two digits 65. Please state your name and the item you'll be speaking on. Area code 626, last two digits 65. Moving on. Area code 310, last two digits 15. Please state your name and the item you'll be speaking on.
Yes, thank you very much, Connor Everts for the Southern California Watershed Alliance and the Statewide Environmental Water Caucus. Like others, I want to commend LADWP on their leadership in conservation, but the Urban Water Management Plan is in front of you, item number 19, does not reflect that sort of leadership with the high per capita numbers. As you got into 2015, when you took an off-ramp to do a regional number, you exceeded it. Statewide legislation looks at 55 gallons per day per person. We should be realistic here, continue to lead, and continue to make connections to the Eastern Sierra, where our water comes from, and for the tribal sovereign nations. I know we can do it because I've done this work for many years, and I'd like to make a quick plug for and a connection to the next program and the late Tom LaBonge, and I got to work with him when he was with DWP, promoting recycled water projects district for district across the city when there was a question whether the public would accept it. It's all accepted now, and we should include it in the policies and make this real planning document to incorporate the mayor's plan as well and continue to be leaders in not only water conservation but water management, and realize that climate change is upon us and we can't rely on the supplies, nor should we, unless we reduce the demand. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. The next caller is area code 213, and the last two digits is 84. Can you please state your name and the item you'll be speaking on? Caller, can you please? Okay, let's move forward. Caller with area code 213, last two digits 38. Please state your name and the item you'll be speaking on. Caller with area code 213, last two digits 38. Are you there? Are you calling? Okay, the next caller I think is internal. Does the extension 14? Are you gonna expel that? Okay. Then we have a caller anonymous. Can you please speak your name and the item you'll be speaking on? Anonymous. Okay, let's just do a quick run through on the ones that we had technical difficulties. Caller with area code 626, last two digits 65. Please state your name and the item you'll be speaking on. Okay. Next one is area code 213, last two digits 84. Are you there, caller? Next one, area code 213, last two digits 64. Caller, are you there? Caller, are you there? Next caller, area code 213, last two digits 51. Caller, are you there?
Yes, my name is Paul Gary with SOMAS. I'm just here to make myself available to answer any questions about items 21 and 22, representing the applicants.
Please call area code 213-367-1356 to get that call-in info. Again, it's 213-367-1356. Thank you, caller. And then the last one is area code 213 with the last two digits 38. Are you there, caller? We hear it. Vice President Reyes, that will now close all public comment.
Thank you, Yvette. And before we move on to item 3, I'd like to have item 19 taken up first, and that is pertaining the naming, establishing the naming of the two facilities that we have in honor of the late council member Tom LaBonge. So we will start first with Rich Harisick, followed by Barbara Romero, who is our deputy mayor for infrastructure. And we also have the pleasure of having Mrs. Bridget LaBonge, the wife of the late council member, here with us to give us a few comments as well. Rich?
Yes, thank you. And it is a privilege for me to present this item today. Of his connection to LADWP, Councilman LaBonge had a keen interest in our history and the importance of the water system. And though he was well known to personally connect with his constituents, he also did that with civil servants within the city and would often attend their retirement parties. As for those water system employees, he would always say, the two most important things in life are water and relationships. And if there's one thing I'm going to miss at my own retirement is having Tom there. But it is my privilege to present this recognition to him. Councilmember LaBonge indeed saw the importance of water and the water system to the city of Los Angeles, as well as the appreciation of its history. And Tom spoke with passion about William Mulholland, not only of his historical importance to the growth of Los Angeles, but also with pride as a fellow Irishman. And that interest led to a desire to support efforts within the city, making sure its infrastructure remains strong. Where some saw Tom as just a pothole politician, those at LADWP who shared his concern saw his support for the water and power systems as vital to keeping them as the strong economic engine that they are and must continue to be. Council Member LaBonge's former Council District number 4 is rich in water system history and infrastructure, including the Hollywood, Silver Lake, Ivanhoe, and Rowena reservoirs. And during Tom's tenure, he was active in all the activities and issues surrounding them. But there are 2 water system facilities that are, in particular, are worthy to designate for the authorization proposed that have a strong connection with Tom and have great historical value. The first one is the Aqueduct Centennial Gardens at the William Mulholland Memorial Fountain. And Steve will run through a few slides of that gardens. So LADWP has but one memorial to honor its history, and that is the William Mulholland Memorial Fountain. It was originally dedicated in 1940, and it commemorates the father of the Los Angeles Aqueduct and all his contributions to the city of Los Angeles. Councilmember LaBonge had a special place in his heart for Mulholland and his importance to the growth of Los Angeles. And he actually celebrated his own informal Mulholland Award each year on St. Patrick's Day. At one time, William Mulholland lived in a small dwelling on the site, and it is one of the few memorials also listed as a City of Los Angeles Historic Cultural Landmark, number 162, having been designated as such in 1976. It is truly an iconic fountain set along the Los Angeles River at the intersection of Los Feliz Boulevard and Riverside Drive. Los Feliz to all of you Anglos out there. In 2013, the Aqueduct Centennial Gardens, which was designed by Pamela Burton and project director Stephanie Somas, was established on the fountain grounds to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of the Los Angeles Aqueduct, and Councilmember LaBonge presided at its dedication, and it truly is a beautiful spot. The gardens are a beautiful addition to the fountain grounds and is regularly used for quinceañera, lifestyle, and wedding photo shoots, which you see one right there. The gardens include a slice of the original aqueduct and an artistic reimagining of the full length of the aqueduct alignment. It is a unique site that truly captures the most significant part of LADWP's history. The next facility that we propose to be named after Tom is the Headworks Water Complex. And the Headworks Water Complex is a historic location in its own right. The site is located along the Los Angeles River, adjacent to Griffith Park's Travel Town. The site is named as such as it was the starting point for the city's water distribution system over a century ago. Groundwater was extracted from an underground infiltration gallery and then flowed to reservoirs and homes in the metro LA area. And those headworks galleries became the headwaters that served as for Metro Los Angeles. It is a strategic location to capture groundwater, and rights to those water were obtained by the city prevailing on its quote-unquote Pueblo water rights in a celebrated 1899 Supreme Court case. At the same time the galleries were built, the city also installed water meters that help reduce per capita consumption by 56%. That was LA's first water conservation measure. The site is now home to the Headworks reservoirs. These 2 reservoirs replace the Silver Lake and Ivanhoe reservoirs for the purposes of safeguarding and improving drinking water quality and are LADWP's largest concrete tanks. They're partially buried, allowing for the installation of a to-be constructed public open space now being designed by Frank Geary and Associates and Olin. The idea of moving water storage for downtown Los Angeles from Silver Lake to the Headworks site was born one afternoon in Councilman LaBonge's office as a solution to meeting the challenges of new water quality regulations while not adversely altering the character of the community surrounding Silver Lake Reservoir. It was Councilman LaBonge who cut the ribbon celebrating the completion of the Headworks Reservoir. The complex will also be the site of a state-of-the-science water quality laboratory and one of the first treated drinking water augmentation potable reuse plants in the world. Altogether, the complex represents every facet of the water system: water resources, water distribution, water operations, and water quality. And actually, at your board's next meeting, we'll have a full presentation of the Headworks site. And it's to this acknowledgement of the significance of both sites and the significance of Councilmember LaBonge's contributions to the success of LADWP water system, whether it be in support of recycled water in Griffith Park, pipeline improvements, water quality enhancements, or general support of LADWP staff and its board, that it is proposed that the council member's name be added to both facilities to then be called the Tom LaBonge Aqueduct Centennial Gardens and the Tom LaBonge Headworks Water Complex, and that signage be directed towards that, which you already saw. And I've been asked to read the resolution, which reads as follows. Whereas Los Angeles Department of Water and Power proposes to honor the late council member Tom LaBonge for his service to the City of Los Angeles and support of LADWP. And whereas such service by council member LaBonge included 14 years as a council member and 39 years in total public service, including time with LADWP. And whereas such support for LADWP included his active involvement in all issues surrounding the water system infrastructure improvements and operations within the council member's former council district number 4 and the promotion of recycled water in Griffith Park. And whereas the aptly named Mr. Los Angeles was also a cheerleader of LADWP, remembering its past contributions to the establishment of Los Angeles as a world-class city, but also as its responsibility to continue to be the city's economic engine. And whereas among the many water system facilities, the Aqueduct Centennial Gardens at the Mulholland Memorial Fountain and the Headworks Water Complex stand as two of the most historically significant, both being located within Council District 4 and being facilities that Councilmember Tom LaBonge directly and positively impacted during his tenure as City Council member. And whereas it is fitting the Board of Water and Power Commissioners to honor the legacy and name of Tom LaBonge as a faithful servant and friend to LADWP. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Department of Water and Power, Board of Water and Power Commissioners, hereby authorize the council member's name to be added to the aforementioned facilities to now be called the Tom LaBonge Aqueduct Centennial Gardens and the Tom LaBonge Headworks Water Complex. Be it further resolved that the General Manager direct the installation of appropriate signage for the renaming of each facility and that all future references to the facilities use those new names. And under Marty's direction, we have already put that signage up in anticipation of your board's vote at the Centennial Gardens. Commissioner.
Thank you so much. And before we take a vote on that, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Bridget LaBonge, who's here with us today, and would like to hear some remarks from her.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to tell you, very unprofessional here because I'm in tears. This is unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. I just want first to show there's William Mulholland behind us. We've had this thing from Tom's office. It's been in our home, in our living room, our little Mulholland statue. I think it's from your lobby at DWP at the Borough Building. It was in his office forever, and when he retired, he brought it home. I also want to tell you that our daughter studied abroad in Ireland in January of 2019, and on a tour of Belfast, the college professor asked, does anyone know who William Mulholland was? And nobody did except for our daughter, Mary Kate. She raised her hand and then taught the class for the next 10 minutes. And so in the process of becoming friends with this professor, who was also on the Ulster County Historical Society, they invited Tom to Belfast to unveil the historical plaque on the birthplace of William Mulholland in Belfast. That was his last trip abroad. He brought all the glory of Los Angeles to Belfast and, of course, ended up on the paper the next morning. They loved it. And he taught them a lot about William Mulholland and the importance of water in Los Angeles. We're definitely calling them and letting them know of this glorious honor. I'm beyond words. And I just want to tell you how important Tom's, this neighborhood is to Tom because he grew up in Silver Lake. He probably swam in the Mulholland Fountain as a child. And often when we go to see him at Forest Lawn in Hollywood Hills, we pass by the Mulholland Fountain and Headworks. So this is just, I'm beyond words. Thank you so much to everyone. I wish you could be here to see this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Would like to turn it over to our Deputy Mayor, Barbara Romero, for a few remarks, please.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. I couldn't miss this for the world. I think when, DWP makes a lot of infrastructure investments, and we don't, and I think it's fitting that, as Mr. LaBonge would say, it's not just the infrastructure, it's the people behind the infrastructure investments. So as we all know, as Rich talked about it, Labange loved his city workers, but he had a special place for DWP workers. We all knew that. And we all have stories about, for those of us who were lucky to work with him, we all heard his stories, and he always had a moral of a story that at the end of the day, the customers came first. Those of us who worked in the city, and for him, the customers were the city residents. And I met him first when I was a Senate field deputy, and he worked for, at that point, the mayor, and he was he was a staffer, and we were both a Saturday morning talk. Of course, it was a Saturday morning at a community meeting, and he was giving me tips on how to speak, what to say, and as a deputy mayor, he would always, was giving me tips on what I needed to do. And to the very end, he was always there reminding us what mattered. And I think what is so fitting about this, recognizing him, this work, is that we all focusing on these two monuments, as you alluded to, Rich, is that Mr. Los Angeles, and he's laughing right now and he's smiling because he, at the end of the day, he was so humble. And because there was always two things to his stories. It was customers first, and the people mattered, and the city services mattered, but then also the history mattered. And Mr. Los Angeles, we need these kinds of recognitions, is people need to remember the values of Councilmember Labange, but also the person that made Councilmember Labange, and that people like him are what make Los Angeles great. And that, people, the future generations are going to know who he is when they go visit these infrastructure investments in the city of Los Angeles. So I'm delighted to be here to help asking you guys for your support, and just delighted that that he's here smiling at us, and he would have come back and say, good job, Deputy Romero. Forsetti would be proud. And I ask for an aye vote from you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara, for those heartwarming remarks. I'm going to open it up to the rest of our board members. If anybody wants to add anything, any comments at this point, before we go to our general manager remarks.
Mia LEHRER, I just want to sort of echo what people have said about Councilman Labange. He was also in our household with Michael LEHRER, the guy who played football, and the one who was really best friends with the guy who was the president of the city council at the time, of the council at the school, and that they both started a environmental committee collecting garbage at Marshall High School. So it started early, and it's wonderful to see you here today, Mrs. Labange, and I know everybody misses him. So he was a light in any meeting he attended. So thank you all for thinking about this, and onwards, as they say, with your wonderful children.
Thank you, Commissioner LEHRER.
And if I could add just two
Sure.
things. I did not know Tom, but his presence was all around me, and that I live in the neighborhood as well, and I know this park, and I know the impact that he has had, and I've seen him many times throughout the neighborhood, and just the effusive personality. And I often remark with my husband how, will we ever get a council member like him again. We were so privileged and lucky to have someone like him, and an honor to represent our district. And so I'm so pleased to see this and delighted of this naming, and look forward to seeing the sign.
Thank you, Commissioner NEEMAN. Brady. So I'd like to, if there's nobody else to speak, I'd like to turn this over to our general manager, Marty.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. It's really an honor to be able to do this today, to bring this resolution to the board. Bridget, I'm so glad you're with us today. You know how important Tom was to us. He was a personal friend of mine and a friend to so many people here at the department, and was really one of our biggest cheerleaders, and really encouraged us. As Barbara Romero said, it's not just about projects, there's more to it than that. And Tom taught us about humanity and about really caring for the customers we serve and really caring for the communities. And I think of the times we spent together, whether it's walking around Mulholland Fountain or walking around Silver Lake or Hollywood Hills or being up north in Eastern Sierra. So many stories, but I will tell you, at the birth of the Headworks complex, Tom and one of the folks from the staff and I were in his office. We just finished a long weekend charrette. Actually, Commissioner Miller was doing the Silver Lake Master Plan, and we just finished, I think, 17 design charrettes at Franklin High School with between 400 and 500 people there, and it left us with no clear way forward at Silver Lake to do the water quality improvements that we had envisioned there. And it was in Tom's office on a sunny afternoon that the idea of Headworks was born. And went out there and looked at it and really worked it. But it was really born in his office, his idea to build that project. So it's so appropriate that the facility and the complex be named after him, in addition to his love and knowledge of the history of water in Los Angeles. So it was a great moment and a great honor that's owed to a man who certainly deserves it in every single way. So I appreciate the board, considering this motion today.
Thank you, Marty, for that personal and heartfelt dedication, and thanks to everyone who made some heartwarming comments. Councilmember LaBonge rightfully earned the nickname Mr. Los Angeles for his love of all things LA, whether it be LA history, landmarks, food, or trivia. And whether you knew him personally or not, we have all heard stories like how much he loved a good hike at Griffith Park, or the pumpkin bread loaves he would give out made by nuns at the Hollywood's Monastery of the Angels, or his love of photographing the city and his annual calendars celebrating his beautiful photography. Tom's appreciation for this great city we love was felt by anyone who knew him. He encouraged us all to believe in and cheer for our city. And Tom's support of many of the department's projects that Marty just mentioned and Rich just mentioned, and for the dedicated work of our staff, makes him a personal friend of the department. He made an indelible mark on many of DWP's projects that have come to be synonymous with the city's 4th district, like the Centennial Garden in the Los Feliz and the Headworks Reservoir near his beloved Griffith Park. His appreciation of the department's history and our customers and the residents of the Eastern Sierra was so sincere and instructive to all the efforts that we carry on now on balancing our responsibility to provide water to the city in an environmentally responsible manner. And for all the reasons today, it is fitting for the Board of Water and Power Commissioners to honor the legacy and name of Tom LaBonge as a faithful public servant and friend to LADWP with the renaming of the Headworks Water Complex and the Aqueduct Centennial Gardens at the Mulholland Memorial Fountain. So I entertain a motion to approve this item.
I move that that we approve the dedication to Mr. Tom LaBonge for both the Mulholland Fountain and the Headworks projects.
I second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Reyes,
Aye.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Lair,
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Aye.
4 ayes, it is passed.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mrs. LaBonge, to being here, and thank you, Barbara, for your presence. Thanks. So we move to item number 3, which is a report by the general manager. Marty, take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you very much for the vote on item 19. A few brief items to let the board be aware. This past weekend, the science students at North Hollywood High School took home the first place trophy at the U.S. Department of Energy's National Science Bowl Championship. They are competing in a field of 64 teams, and it was the North Hollywood High's second national championship that they've achieved. To qualify for this, the North Hollywood High School team first won the 2021 LADWP Science Bowl regional competition back in February. And as many of you will recall, the Science Bowl is a proud tradition here at the Department of Water and Power. And we have a lot of employees who work very hard on supporting this every year and act as coaches and officials during the competition. And it's one of our strong, traditions and really commitment to the educational community in the LA area. And so we want to thank, all the folks who worked on it here from the Department of Water and Power, and then to congratulate the North Hollywood High School students on a tremendous victory. It was the second time they had the National Science Bowl was held virtually, but to compete against teams across the country and come out number 1 is a great accomplishment. So congratulations, North Hollywood High. Secondly, yesterday I participated in a press conference with LAUSD Superintendent Austin Buettner. He is making an effort to help get school-age children, which are basically children in middle school and high school from 12 on up, who can now be vaccinated. He's got a concerted effort to try to get 300,000 students vaccinated before the end of the calendar year. And so with that, LAUSD is planning to have a vaccine site at every campus during the course of the rest of the year. Unfortunately, the way the vaccine rules work currently is that parents can't send in a slip allowing permission. They actually have to be there in person unless someone's 17 years old. And so for the younger students, they have to have a parent present with them. And so I talked to Superintendent Buettner last week, and we were talking about the obstacles of parents getting time off. And so to set an example and hopefully set the stage for success for all student vaccines, whether through LAUSD or other school districts or any other facilities. As effective yesterday, we're allowing our employees paid time off, basically absorbed time, to take their school-age children to get vaccinated. We feel it's a very important move towards getting our communities and families safer and getting us to return to normal as quickly as possible. So that's a move that happened yesterday in conjunction with LAUSD, and we're supporting their efforts and supporting in part by making it easy for our own parents of school-age kids to get their children vaccinated during the workday. Our LA 100 study, you recall we did the presentation about a month ago or a little more on our LA 100 study. Last week, we launched a new series of virtual community outreach meetings. And the NREL staff, Jackie Cochran, who's the principal, the studier for this from the National Renewable Energy Lab, is the main presenter, along with Jason Rondu, who's our Director of Resource Planning and Development of Programs. And we followed a short presentation that covered all the critical next steps in getting to 100% renewables. There's a lot of new work that we're doing besides just daylighting the study, but we're looking at new areas to dive deeper into. Customer use and electricity, renewable energy supply and environmental benefits, and really looking at how we could, how we need to round out the information that we learned in the study, what we need to do to get to the next steps, and really to make this plan workable for the city of LA. And so we have a clear path forward to get 100% renewable energy. The next meetings are scheduled tonight and Wednesday and Thursday. They all start at 6 p.m. and we're making a pitch for all interested people to join in. The meeting link has a meeting at ladwp.com/LA100. We are trying to get as much community input as possible and doing some polling and surveying during the meetings. And so anyone who's interested in the study or finding more about LA100 or the next steps, we encourage them to go online and to join us as we move forward with this effort. Last Tuesday, us, along with the Green Hydrogen Coalition and other key partners, announced the launch of Hydeal LA. It's an initiative to create a green hydrogen commercialized market. So basically, have green hydrogen market come to scale and drive the cost down significantly so that we can have a clean burning fuel for power plants in the LA basin and elsewhere. One of the big findings that you may recall from LA100 is that we need some type of renewable generation, combustible generation in the LA basin in order to really get to the 100% clean power grid that we are looking forward to. And so green hydrogen is the best bet that we can make in terms of converting our power plant so we can have a renewable-based fuel that burns clean and provides us a sort of reliability and resiliency that we need in our own power grid. And so that effort was formally launched last Tuesday, and there'll be a lot more news coming about that in the near future as we try to grow a commercial market here in LA. Basically doing green hydrogen what happened in the solar industry by having that cost that was initially very expensive. Now it's the cheapest energy we have. Trying to drive that fuel cost down as quickly as possible so that we can really get to the clean energy future that we're planning. Lastly, we had our sustainability awards again this year. In spite of a challenging year, many of our large commercial, industrial, and institutional customers still achieve significant savings for water and energy and improve their efficiencies, and they help contribute to the city's overall environmental goals. So we recently honored 21 commercial customers during our 6th annual sustainability awards, and it also included a panel discussion on what we need to do to continue sustainability efforts during the pandemic. Among 3 commercial customers, Renaissance Collection, Shelley Sterling, and Naomi Knuckelman, they installed a total of 832 EV chargers at 46 locations last year. The Energy Efficiency Award winners saved nearly 8,000 megawatt hours, and our Water Conservation Award winners saved nearly 5.9 million gallons. And so our work of providing renewable water and electricity continues, but it would not be possible without the partnership and collaboration from our industrial and our commercial and institutional customers. So we thank them for their participation and even through the pandemic, continuing with us to make progress in these areas. And Nancy, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that, but if you had an additional comment about that, certainly welcome to hear from you.
We're just very pleased to see continued progress on the part of our customers and continue to work with them closely to help them achieve their energy efficiency goals and save them money.
So that is the conclusion of my report. Thank you very much. If there's any questions.
Any questions, comments from board members?
It's impressive how much is actually happening. Amazed how you can keep it all these pieces going together, starting from North Hollywood High School. That's fantastic. One of my sons graduated from there. I'll have to tell him how well the students are doing. And of course, the NREL, I always seem to miss the meeting, so I'm going to try really hard. I do wonder how they're advertised because, you know I got a list from DWP of anything and everything that's going on that we could join as commissioners over the last month. It's a little overwhelming. But NREL themselves can be reaching out to some of the professional organizations that like American Society of Landscape Architects and Urban Land Institute and others who, just to kind of cast a wider net and make the citizens feel like they're a part of an important process. So anyway, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. And we'll work on the outreach. I know Joe Romalo's very involved with them, and if there's anywhere that we can continue to reach out further, we will make sure that we do that.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Marty, for your report.
Susan, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Barad.
Yeah, this morning's paper on the front page, it said that Governor Newsom has a new challenge, and that is power outages. So I wondered if Andy could respond to that, or Richard Harrisek. You know, are we in the midst of a drought, or what's the real truth behind that?
Rich, you want to talk about drought, and then maybe Andy or Reiko can talk where we are with power planning for the summertime?
Sure. So we've talked a bit in the past about drought and dry conditions. So it's certainly all over the state a dry condition, meaning our precipitation, whether that's in the form of snow or rainfall, is far, far below average. I mean, I think we came in at around 40% or so of our own aqueduct supplies this year, and it's the same throughout the states. Drought classically is kind of defined as there's not enough water to kind of do what you need to do. So if you're a farmer and there's not enough water to grow crops, then you're in a drought. If you're a forest and there's not been enough rainfall to keep the trees from dying and drying out, then that could be a drought there. But when you have storage, which is the strategy for urban cities to have, you can weather dry periods and thereby not be in a drought. So we see in the Southland that we have a record amount of storage available to us, in spite of it being very dry in our own watersheds, whether that's in Northern California, the Eastern Sierra, or even the Colorado River Basin. And so we can survive and we can be resilient against these years like this. So this year we in Los Angeles are not in a drought. We're certainly suffering a very, very dry season. Up in the Eastern Sierra, where we normally, about 400,000 acre feet flows off the hills, the city of Los Angeles only is getting a quarter of that. And we're meeting all of the environmental needs up in the Eastern Sierra first. So they get all the water that is allocated to them from the judgments, decisions, and that have been against water and power, or agreements that we've signed into. The Eastern Sierra, whether that be in Mono County or Inyo County, gets all of their obligations met first, and so that leaves in this year really only about 20% of the needs for Los Angeles. So those needs are met first. But what we have in storage, though, in the Southland is, as I said, a record amount of storage that will bridge the gap, and that storage is there because of all the years prior to this where people have conserved. And so that is not just the phrase conserve water, but they actually, that water that they conserve, that they did conserve over these past years, is sitting up in those reservoirs to be used on a dry day like today.
Okay, thank you. I wondered whether the paper was projecting the next 2 years, or, the future, rather than right now.
Correct. So when we look off in the multiple years, then the scenario, obviously nobody can predict what happens year to year. Remember, 6 out of every 10 years is dry, and those 4 years that are wet are very, very wet, and they also contribute to building that storage. So we never know what the years begin, but things like the Urban Water Management Plan provide drought scenarios, meaning that when it does come that storage is low, of what we do. So that storage that I mentioned is good for this year for sure, and likely the next year, and will be a hedge against the future years. But when we start getting past 2 years from now, then it continues to be extremely dry, then you would go into more conservation type measures. Now, the city has already been in those from previous droughts in terms of only 3 days a week watering and things like that. So that continued water conservation will be a hedge against those future dry years as well.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Did you have a question about power preparation as well?
Excuse me?
You have a question about power preparation for the summertime?
Yes, because that's what the article, the headline said, power outages.
Yeah, I
That's
think
going to be a
Ray.
test.
So
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, Rico, go ahead.
All right. So for DWP going into this summer, we don't anticipate any shortages. We think we will have adequate supply. Rich did mention the drought, and that continues to impact water supplies and hydro resources from the Pacific Northwest. So when the governor is concerned about shortages, it's primarily related to the California Independent System Operator, which serves 80% of the state. That does not impact LADWP. We are, like I say, very well resourced. We took extraordinary efforts to ensure that we had every plant available going into this summer, more so than we had last summer. There is a significant effort to improve coordination and communication over what was there last year, and they've made great efforts. I participated in a CEO roundtable on summer readiness. This has the highest level of concerns from the governor's office to the CPUC, to the CEC, to the CAISO, DWP, and others. Some entities that were able to help last year, such as the Department of Water Resources, because of the drought, will not be able to assist this year. So there is heightened interest in DWP, and we have let folks know that once we have secured enough power for our customers, that if we have additional supply available, we will help ensure that the state is protected also. As you're also aware, April 1st, we joined the Energy Imbalance Market, so that is another venue for DWP to assist the state. But we are doing other efforts over and above, similar to what we did last year. So if we have additional transmission available, for instance, not just generation, if we have transmission, we can secure a source of power using our unloaded transmission lines and deliver it to the CAISO, we will do that. So we are very closely coordinating and communicating with all the agencies to ensure that we can provide the most help we're able to after we provide for our customers.
Thanks, Rico.
Thank you, Reiko.
Thank you for that. And I just want to add, Marty, that we should also take a look at, as a department, our disaster preparedness plans, so that when we have disasters coming through for the summer, like they're projecting the wildfires, the drought and all that, that we are indeed ready to meet those challenges.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, Rich had planned a resiliency report to the board. We can also bring kind of powers plan for the summer. Certainly, you know, if there's a natural disaster or a wildfire, something like that, that's always the wild card that we have to prepare for. And so we can bring that as well, to at least let the board know the thinking that's gone into getting prepared for the summertime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to item 4. I understand we have a motion that will be introduced by
Correct.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Correct. Hi there, everyone. Thank you. I have a motion for consideration as it relates to some clarity around the city statute and the authority that has been granted to the general manager. So I believe the course of action here is that I read it and then it'll be circulated for the next board review, for the next board meeting for approval. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. Bear with me, please. So whereas by way of resolution number 018208, the Board of Water and Power Commissioners previously authorized pursuant to its authority under section 10.1.1D of the City of Los Angeles Administrative Code, the general manager to enter into contracts for up to 3 years, so long as they were not for personal services and did not involve consideration in excess of $5 million annually. And whereas, to the board's understanding, there is no city statute which defines what constitutes personal services. And whereas, to the board's further understanding, supply chain services applies a further restriction to contracts for professional services. And whereas in an effort to make the contracting process more administratively and operationally efficient and effective, the board would like to have a better understanding of what constitutes personal services and professional services. And whereas the board would like to consider options in defining and refining the terms referenced above, therefore, now be it resolved that the general manager, through appropriate staff, is requested to present to the board the current operating definitions of the above quoted terms, which are personal services and professional services, as well as options for refining and defining those terms to facilitate the efficient and efficiency of the contracting process within the general manager's delegated authority.
Thank you so much, Commissioner NEEMAN Brady, for that motion, which we will consider in the near future, probably at the next board meeting. Thank you.
So just as a formality, that somebody would have to second the Commissioner NEEMAN Brady's introduction. So she presented the motion for consideration, and so there would be a second needed to put it on the next agenda.
I second the motion.
Then you are complete with that item.
Thank you so much.
May I offer a brief comment to offer a little historical perspective on this?
Actually, Fred, not at this point because it's not a agendized item. So, Dr. Pickle, if you could save it for the next meeting, that would be great.
Thank you. We
Can
move.
I comment under 5 because 4 is an agendized item.
4 is just an introduction of the motion. So the motion is not up for discussion. It is just the introduction of the motion for consideration at a future meeting.
I will hold my comments then.
Thank you. We move now to the comments from Fred on agendized items. Do you have any comments?
I have some brief comments on what constitutes items 8B, 12, and 13, and also some brief comments on item 20. If we're going to have, I can save my comments for item 8B on 8B, 12, and 13.
Okay.
And then on item 20, DWP went beyond the state requirements for the urban water management plan. And as such, we feel that the supplement would be improved by discussion of costs of resources as well as their assessment of the need for reliability. And so if not in this round, in the next round, there should be a specific discussion of the costs of the resources as well as the impact on overall supply reliability, in particular because we're contemplating the steps needed to add Operation Next. That's the end of my comments. I will save my budget comments for item 8B.
Thank you. For item 6, Yvette, do we have any comments or discussion with the neighborhood council reps?
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any councils on the items on today's agenda.
Thank you. We move to item 7. Any items that have been pulled, deferred, Madam Secretary?
Not that I'm aware of. Does any commissioner want to pull any items for discussion?
I will pull 14.
Vice President Reyes, will we be pulling the budget matters to be voted on after
yes.
presentation? Okay.
And we have item 15 for deferral as well.
Correct. You're going to defer that.
Okay. Anything else? So we have the remaining items.
So we, I'm sorry to pause you for a second. So I don't need to pause on 14. I don't need to hold 14. I just want to make a comment on it. And we've seemingly no longer have any comments from board commissioners section. We used to have that. So I defer to Joe and Susanna how to handle that.
If you want to offer a comment on it, Commissioner, then I would suggest pulling it.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I would suggest pulling item 14 if you have comment on 14.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we will entertain the comments at that time. Thank you. Okay, so we have for approval today, items 10, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25.
Vice President Reyes, what about item 11?
Okay, can you please add item 11 for approval? The one that I'm seeing on screen. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve those remaining items that I just mentioned?
So moved.
A second. Please call the roll, Yvette.
Vice President Reyes,
Aye.
Commissioner BARAD Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady,
Aye.
Commissioner LEHRER, Commissioner LEHRER. Is she muted?
I'm feeling very sort of overwhelmed and uncomfortable with these, large set of issues moving forward. And you get a package with all this information on a Thursday to read it by Monday. And 20 to 25, is that the budget? Which number is the budget?
No, the budget, there will be a special presentation on the budget, so the budget is not being voted on at this point.
I just will say that, and then I think one of those is the water for assessment for a project downtown, a residential project downtown, a development project. Is that correct?
Rich, do you want to address that?
So if you'd like to pull that, Commissioner, you can pull it.
No, I'm just saying, I'm going to, this is the first time it's become really clear that the way that that we need to have more study sessions. And, when we're approving, utilities for a new development project that is, filled with sort of all sorts of technical calculations. There's got to be some way to differentiate, which of these projects are just basically technical factors that are engineering oriented that, DWP has reviewed, and then ones where we have something to sort of contribute. And I just, I think that there should be, in the sense that I got a very a nice presentation this week that I did not request, but which was really helpful. and it was off, the urban water management plan. I really appreciate that. And I just think in the future, like even just saying board vote on remaining items. I'm supposed to remember which one 16, 18, 20 while we go through this. Not fair. It's just not fair. So I just, it's like, I want to be supportive and helpful, but I need to understand what I'm voting on. And I mean, for now, I'll vote as, go with the flow, but I think we got to figure out a better way of sharing information, because some of us may be, I happen to have attended a fine institution, but some of these obviously documents are deep in certain ways that are not part of my lexicon, and there are aspects of technical documents that you all prepare, which other people review, which we could just we understand. We're here to bless.
Totally understand your remarks, and we will take those into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So,
Do I need to
Yvette, go ahead and call the roll.
Call the roll. Vice President Reyes.
Aye.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins.
Aye.
Commissioner LEHRER.
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Aye.
4 ayes. The items have now passed.
Thank you. We now go to the management reports, the presentations. We'll start with item 8A, presentation regarding the return to work updates from our general manager.
Thank you, Commissioner. Shannon Pasquale, our CAO, along with Nazir Fazli, who are Director of Corporate Safety, will be doing the presentation today. And so I know they're prepared to bring the board up to speed on our latest plan. Go ahead, Shannon.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Okay. Before I get started with the presentation, next slide, please. I want to make it very clear that we are not returning our workforce on June 14th. There are a lot of issues for which we'll cover with you today, and that explains why we're not going to be bringing our workforce back on the 13th. As you guys know, there's a lot of health guidance that's kind of in flux right now. We have information from the CDC with regards to their mask announcement. We know Governor Newsom's going to be making an announcement with regards to June 15th. The Cal OSHA Standards Board kind of deferred taking any action on their part. They're going to be meeting again on June 3rd. We're still looking for ongoing guidance which relates to employees who are over 65, who have health conditions, or who are still experiencing issues with regards to the school closures. So the Return to Work Task Force, which is comprised of myself, Nazir, Dr. Leslie Israel, who is the department's medical director, Deetra Fernandez, who is the director of labor relations, Thomas Simonowski, who is the director of human resources, and Mark Hendon, who is a risk manager for corporate safety, have been working very closely with regards to what we're going to need to address in the future. We've been working very closely with Marty. Marty's been working with his senior AGMs as well to get input so that we're all on the same page going forward. Next page, please. So here are the issues that we are addressing right now. We have to address the issue of mask mandates, the social distancing requirements, meeting room capacity, elevator capacity. We're looking at reopening the cafeteria at some point in the future. The child care issues that our employees are still experiencing, school reopenings in the fall, how to deal with the van pool, carpool occupancy, especially if we're going to have employees who are vaccinated and unvaccinated who are going to be riding together in both the carpools and van pools. We need to address the parking issues that we know are going to be an issue for us, and the ventilation of the workplaces. Next slide. Nazir is going to walk you through the next couple of slides. Nazir, are you there?
I am, and thank you.
Okay.
Good morning. As part of our COVID-19 response, beginning early last year in March, our facility maintenance group inspected and evaluated all of our facility air quality and ventilation systems. As part of that inspection, they replaced all the filters with higher rated filters and increased the outside air intake when possible. At JFB, for example, the outside air normally runs at 10-20% outside air intake. It was increased to 30%. So what that means is that under normal conditions at 10-20%, there is a 6 to 8 times air exchange with outside air. With 30%, that increases to 10 to 12 times exchange with outside air. In other words, every 5 to 6 minutes, the air is exchanged. So our air quality goals are to identify any elevated risk spaces and take steps and implement measures to improve the air quality in those indoor spaces. Next slide, please. Now this graph shows the number of our positive cases since the beginning of pandemic. If we notice our first rise in positive cases started right after our May holidays. In June of that year, last year, we reported or we had 49 positive cases. In July, 62 positive cases. We had a very sharp increase in month of November with 98 positive cases, followed by month of December, 474 positive cases. After the holidays, we had experienced a sharp decline in number of our positive cases. Currently, in month of May, we have 5 positive cases so far in month of May. As a result, we have 4 employees in isolation currently and 7 employees in quarantine as a result of close contact. Next slide, please. For testing and vaccination testing, we continue to provide testing for all of our critical facilities. We offer rapid testing, which is antigen testing for all of 19 critical facilities that were identified at the beginning of pandemic. That testing is offered weekly or biweekly. The numbers of tests have declined in recent weeks, but we average approximately 100 tests in critical facilities. In addition, we also offer take-home or self-administered PCR test kits. Every Wednesday morning between 9 to 11, employees are encouraged to come and pick up a test kit, and these are self-administered Fulgent PCR test kits. We have 2 contracts in place, one for Fulgent and one for antigen rapid test. We are well-funded and well-positioned to meet current and future COVID-19 testing needs. As far as vaccination, we partnered with the fire department early in month of January we offered vaccination opportunities for all of our employees through stages and tiers. By mid-March, we had offered vaccination opportunities for all of our employees. Currently, we have approximately just slightly over 5,000 employees who are vaccinated. The real number may be somewhat higher than that because some of our employees do get vaccinated through other sources. We do not have records of those vaccinations. To our best estimate, we estimate the number of vaccinated employees somewhere between 55 to 65% of employees have been vaccinated. Could be higher. We do have another vaccination opportunity. We partnered with Local 18 and St. John's Hospital. This vaccination, we will be hosting it at JFB. They will come and set up at JFB, and this is will be open for all employees and their families. And this vaccination will be offered for children of employees as young as 12 years of age. There will be some requirements for young children when they want to get vaccinated. All that will be, information will be provided via communication that will be going out this week. Next slide, please. That concludes my safety report. I will stay on to answer any questions. Turning it back over to Shannon.
All right, thank you, Nazir. So as the department continues to work through the challenges of this COVID-19 pandemic, and as it appears that we're trying to get closer and closer to be out of this, we're going to continue to provide a number of related leave opportunities for our employees. The governor signed into legislation, Senate Bill 95, which provides our employees with an additional bank of sick time should they need it. If they can't work from home or are incapable of being able to work at all, they have additional sick leave that doesn't hit the actual sick bank. And they can always, take FMLA if they need to. If any of our employees actually contract COVID-19 in the course and scope of their employment, they're actually going to be covered through our workers' compensation program as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so our next steps. So we're the task force and obviously Marty and some of the other senior AGMs are going to continue to identify issues related to a return to work plan. We are going to continue to monitor what LA County Department of Public Health is going to be doing and what Cal OSHA will be doing when they meet on June 3rd. We are going to consider as our return to work a phased approach towards returning some of our remote working employees to the work sites. We are going to continue to review our work processes, and we are going to selectively start to look at increasing some of the employees returning based on operational needs. And when appropriate, we're going to start engaging the interactive process for those employees who have medical restrictions, and we're going to go through the interactive process with them as well. And we will continue to work with executive management and our labor partners to develop a return to work plan, and we'll report back to the board at some future meeting during the summer. That's our presentation.
Thank you. Marty, do you have anything to add to the presentation?
Just that, at I think it was the last meeting, we talked about a target date of June 14th for returning back to work. As you're aware, most all employees, except those with medical conditions or other conditions that would make them more exposed to COVID, have been coming to work some days a week already. So we're planning on increasing that. There are, as we see in the news every day, there are so many things in flux right now. Even the OSHA guidelines that were going to be adopted this last week have been pushed off, partly to make sure that the CDC guidelines, the Cal OSHA guidelines, that all these things match up. As it is, we have guidelines currently that somewhat contradict themselves. And so, we're really looking to see moving forward before we make any moves, what the federal government and what the state declares, as well as the county. That'll have a material impact on things such as social distancing, people maybe how many allowed in the high rise, the condition of working in the same room together, masking requirements. And so in the meantime, we're going to continue to telecommute our employees for the majority of the time who those in the office setting. And so we're just kind of looking through how those plans develop and how we could plan a more measured, staged approach when the time is right. But at this point, there's so many things that are in flux right now, including school and childcare issues, that it seems the safest course is to stay the course we're on and kind of ride through all these regulatory and rule changes as they're happening.
Thank you. Any comments from board members?
No, it's a very thorough sort of review for an ongoing process you're going through. I appreciate how difficult it is to navigate. So it's hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel in the next month, and look forward. We'll all be following you, all of us with businesses, seeing where you stand. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? So I would like to just add a few things, Marty and team, on the return to work. As we continue to identify issues, I'd really like to have the divisions, right, review their operations. So it's like individual divisions by individual division because they have different operational needs. Identify those, really look at their staffing needs, who can work remotely, who conditions change, and who needs to be on site. And as you said, there are a number of employees that are already returning to work voluntarily. Who are those employees? How many do we have of those employees who want to return on a voluntary basis? And also to really look at staggered return to work plan, as Shannon has mentioned. And so we need to see that plan as well, with the end goal of, probably looking at September or end of summer to see really if we are now at a place where the safe return to work of our employees can be accomplished. And really working with CDC and the Cal OSHA mandates that are in flux right now, and have that clarity of what that return to work really would look like. And as I think I mentioned it at about 2 board meetings ago, is to look at the remote work that we are having right now, and determine, after divisions, of what are the best practices that they have and the lessons learned that they have, and share it with your team, so that will help you make informed decision, right, towards creating that plan for the return to work, because we can't make decisions in a vacuum. The division managers, the divisions have that knowledge of what it is that they need, their operating needs, and the staffing that they need for productivity purposes.
Thank you. We will do that. And also, per other requests you'd made, Shannon is preparing a review of our telecommuting policy and what we learned for that. And I think he's planning to bring that to the board in June.
Okay. Thank you. So at this point, I'd like to call for a brief break before we go to item 8B. A 10-minute break so that you guys have the opportunity to stretch. We've been at this since 10 o'clock. So it's 10:41. Let's return at around 10:51. At 11:51. Oh my God.
It's longer than we thought.
So, our city attorney, do we have to call for a thing, or we just have to do a break? We can do that, right?
No, at this point, we will be in recess until 11:51, at which time we will reconvene and take roll again.
Thank you.
We are in recess.
Thank you.
Please remain silent until all the mics are turned off. Thank you.
Um,
Okay, off we go. Okay, got it.
We are recording.
Welcome back to our meeting. Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Vice President Reyes,
Here.
Commissioner Brad Hopkins,
Present.
Commissioner LEHRER,
Present.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady,
Present.
board members present in the quorum.
Thank you. We are going to proceed with item number 8B, which is a presentation regarding our fiscal year 21-22 final budget. Who's leading the presentation? Is that Anne?
Ann Santilli will lead the presentation, yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ann Santilli. And as a reminder, on March 23rd, we did present the preliminary budget. And on April 23rd, we received the report from the Office of Public Accountability on the budget. And a lot of those comments had to do with increased staffing needs. We expect the city to rebound from the pandemic, and this budget has responded to those requests. Next slide. So the preliminary budget for 21-22 had a total expenditure of $7.761 billion. And the final budget has been increased $84.1 million to show total expenditures of $7,845.5 million, with the majority of the increase in the power system. We have also increased the expected spending on the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and some additional expenditures based on operational needs for other divisions. Next slide. One of the requests we received was to do a comparison of our funded position versus our APR. And as you can see, this shows that our occupancy is in the dark red, our funded positions are in the orange, and the APR, which is the annual personnel resolution, that's the maximum number of employees that the department can hire, has been presented on this slide. Now, normally in the past, we will fund an amount of positions lower than the APR to ensure that we keep rates low. And we expect that the occupancy will normally be lower than that. But as you can see in fiscal year 14-15, our occupancy did go a little higher than our estimated funding. So while the budget is a good planning tool, it doesn't hinder us from hiring. Now for fiscal year 21-22, we actually have planned for funding of 12,253 employees, which gives us the ability to hire 1,703 positions above our April occupancy. So there's ample room to grow into our programs. We have the funding for that. The APR for fiscal year 21-22 is shown on that upper right of 12,989, meaning that while we funded 2,253, if there was a need to go higher, this budget prepares us to do that. We actually plan to fund those additional positions over the next 3 fiscal years. Next slide. Now, as part of the last budget review, we did go back and ask all of the divisions and systems, what additional staffing do you need? As part of the preliminary budget, we had proposed an increase of 106 positions to the APR. From those discussions and recommendations from others, we added 920 additional positions to this budget for a total increase of 1,026 positions. And so on this chart, you can see by organization, the original preliminary increases, the additional increases for total increases, and then our proposed APR for next year, the funded amount, and then the occupancy again. So you can see we have plenty of room to grow in all of these areas. Next slide. Now with these positions, the department also provides overtime. We have to plan for overtime because we are a 24/7 operation, and we do have benefits. We have health care and we have pensions. So this budget has total expenditures estimated at $2.6 billion, with labor being the bulk of it at $1,475 million, anticipated overtime of $287 million, and benefit costs of $838.2 million. And the columns represent the far left is the occupancy as of March. How much we have funded is the middle one. That's what supports this budget. And then that APR total of 12,989 people. And next slide. Now, the OPA did see that we need to increase hiring, and that was also supported, if you remember back in August, I think it was, the Office of Accountability had a functional benchmarking study done, and they said that, you know, despite some of our critics, DWP does a pretty good job, but they did see our business model works, and that we actually do our work by hiring people instead of contractors. So as we've went through this budget, we were able to identify labor increases of $67.8 million compared to the $300 million noted in the OPA report. But I just want to point out, over the fiscal years, we will grow into that number. And based on the current reports we have for fiscal year 24-25, we would have $242 million additional in labor and benefits. Next slide. I'd just like to walk through a little bit of each section's summary of costs. So for the power system, the next slide, this is our biggest budget. The proposed final budget for 21-22 would be $3,690.9 million. And this is $60.6 million over the preliminary budget that was presented. And based on this, the labor, there is 787 positions that could be hired above the occupied as of March. So power system has plenty of room to grow its organization. And next slide. And where that increase was mostly put into the budget was in power new business. We know there's going to be a lot of requests for solar installations, EV chargers, electrification. So the budget of that $60 million, $38.3 million is power new business. And then another large part of it is replacing deteriorated cross arms under our contracts. We have $27.4 million. And from talking to the engineers in power systems, cross arms are a reason why we'll have outage problems instead of poles. So funding this makes operational sense. And next slide. Now, in that $2.6 billion of labor funding, the department has our APR, which are civil service positions, but we also have exempt positions where we go to the union hall. And so in that $2.6 billion, there is also $47.9 million of dollars budgeted for exempt labor. And this is an example. As of April 11th, we had 622 exempt employees working for us. And so this funding will also give the power system and others the ability to hire exempt labor. And as we go through our utility worker program, this would also be the budget that would allow for those positions to continue to be hired. And next slide. So for the water system budget changed very little from the preliminary one, $4.3 million. And from that position, there's the headroom for hiring of 199 positions. And you can see that the bulk of the increase was in the labor portion of it, and with a small reduction to contracts. Next slide. And that labor is mostly funded into the replacement of distribution mains. And then there's also less than $1 million in other capital portions of it to replace services, meter, hydrants, and other operational assets of the water system. Next slide. So So currently, the Senior Assistant General Manager, Rich, also oversees IT. So IT's budget from the preliminary one also increased $6.4 million. And for here, you can see that the bulk of it was between labor and materials and supplies. Now, materials and supplies, that is our software costs. So as we upgrade our Microsoft Office software and other assets, those ones will be funded there. And then the labor, there's 111 positions above the March occupancy that can be hired and are funded in this budget for IT. So we have ample room to grow our IT operations. The next slide. One more. So some of our organizations report directly to the general manager, and this includes the commission office staff, the general manager's office, Equal Employment Opportunity Office, Office of the City Attorney, Claims, Real Estate, and Office of Safety. And this budget actually reduced a little bit. In the general manager's budget, we have positions funded that we're not sure where they're going to go yet. But in this one, we actually gave away some of the positions to the other joint organizations. So, and in the general managers, there's 72 positions to be hired, 32 of which would be part of the general manager's group, and then, or 22, and then 50 for unknown positions, but we have room in the budget in case an operational need comes up. Next slide. So for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, this is new. We have a total budget for 21-22 of $31.6 million. And a portion of this is coming from other organizations. From the contracts, we added $10.8 million because we didn't have that in the last planned budget. We have 48 positions that can grow into this organization. The occupancy is 63, and their APR is fully funded, so all of their positions can be funded in this next year's budget. Next slide. One more. So for the Chief Administrative Office, we actually moved some of the human resources employees to diversity, equity, inclusion, and that's why you see some of the reductions. But the APR of 1,286 is fully funded. So this gives the CAO organization 193 positions that have been funded, and they can add to their occupancy as of March. Next slide. So for regulatory, external and regulatory affairs, their budget adjusted $6 million up from the proposed budget. And here they have 227 positions that have been funded that they can hire above their March occupied headcount. So there's plenty of room to grow in this area as well. We did also receive some requests to increase our sponsorship, so $2.4 million was added there. And then the labor of $6.3 million. And next slide. And this area also handles a lot of the customer benefit programs. So in our budget, we have $190 million proposed for energy efficiency programs, $66 million for electric transportation programs, power incentive programs of $18 million, and water conservation programs for $18 million. And these are in line with prior years. Next slide. And so for my organization, I actually have a lot of budget dollars that are not labor, but the bond interest redemption for water and power. So we've trued that up a little bit, and we reduced it by $17.7 million. Retirement and death benefit projected costs.
Is that refinancing, Ann?
We will be looking for opportunities to refinance. We will watch those callable bonds, but this budget assumes this is all new money.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we do have some increases to our insurance that we expect. So we did increase it $15 million. And then our retiree medical, we think that that is well funded. It's almost 93% funded, so we have 43.3 million in there. So the CFO budget actually had a slight decrease of 9.3 million, but I also have 58 positions that I can hire based on my March occupancy report. Okay, next
What
slide.
triggered the increase in insurance?
All the wildfire.
So it's under you that gets noted.
Yeah.
I see.
This
Okay.
is
I didn't
basically
realize.
all the costs that the department incurs and which senior assistant general manager controls it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a few slides that basically says, here are the programs that we do from like an accounting perspective and how these costs get allocated and what those costs look like.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, if we could go to the Power Revenue Fund. So as a reminder, the Power Revenue Fund has 5 financial categories where we spend money. The Power System Reliability Program, this is our changing out of poles, cross arms, transformers. This is putting infrastructure in the ground to serve the customer. The infrastructure category, this is replacing some of our generating, addition and betterments. We do Cascade. This is where Power New Business is also financed. Operating support is our joint organization cost. So our customer service buildings, JFB, supply chain costs, IT. Energy efficiency is another category for us. This is all capital. We do regulatory accounting for this, so we do bond fund our energy efficiency programs to the extent we don't have other resources. And then our renewable portfolio standard cost category, and that's just greening our energy that we sell. The next slide. So from those 5 categories, this is the capital expenditures that supports this budget. So for fiscal year 21-22, we have $1,881 million planned, with the bulk of that being funded for Power System Reliability Program, and then infrastructure of $539 million, our renewable portfolio standard of $317 million, operating support of $250, and then our energy efficiency program of $170 million. And from some of our metrics, as far as PSRP, we have plans for 3,500 pole replacements, 10,000 cross-arm replacements, and 850 transformer replacements. Next slide. And for those same cost categories, there's also an O&M component. So for fiscal year 21-22, we have $1,556 million planned in O&M costs, with the bulk of that going to operating support, then power system reliability, infrastructure, O&M costs, and then renewable portfolio standards. Next slide. In addition to labor, one of our largest costs is our fuel and purchase power budget. So for fiscal year 21-22, we have $1,501 million planned for fuel and purchase power to serve our customers, with the bulk of it being the renewables cost. And then just the other costs, that's our purchase of energy from Hoover Dam, economic purchases, and sometimes we have emission expenses. And this budget does support 41.5% for the current year renewables, and then 44.1% for fiscal year 21-22. And next slide. So here's a summary of Power Systems' financial plan. So this budget assumes that we're going to sell 20,932 gigawatt hours of energy, which is a little bit lower than our current year, and that's because we're investing in energy efficiency. We have a revenue requirement of $4,379 million. We have operating expenses, as I just showed, of $1,556 million. We have fuel and purchase power of $1,501 million. Depreciation, property taxes, and other expenses of $774 million, for total operating costs of $3,830 million. Other income and expenses, which is an expense of, this is where our debt expenses of $389 million. So we plan to end the year with an additional $160 million in our equity, our net position. And this is supported by borrowing of $1,289 million and has a system average rate for the customers of 20.4 cents, which is 0.1 cents higher than the prelim budget, and then slightly higher, like 0.7 cents higher than what we expect our current year budget expenses to be of 19.7 cents. And if we look at the next slide, we can go through the same activity for the water side. The water side also has 5 categories of expenses: water quality, all of the infrastructure that we put in place in the filtration plant, water infrastructure, we're changing out our aging pipeline, regulator stations, pumping stations, so that customers have reliable water. Water supply, this is the aqueduct cost, MWD, all of the costs that we incur to produce, collect, and sell the water. The Owens Valley regulatory compliance cost that we have, and then operating support, and this is water systems portion of joint. Next slide. So for fiscal year 21-22, water system has capital expenditures of $891 million, with the majority of $370 million in infrastructure, $323 million in water quality, and then lower estimates for operating support, water supply, and Owens Valley regulatory. And for this capital budget, they plan to achieve 195,000 feet of main line replacement and 10,700 feet of trunk line replacement. And next slide. Now, to complement the capital, we have O&M costs with these same categories. So for fiscal year 21-22, water system has $592 million of O&M expenditures, with $161 million of operating support. And operating support for the O&M side, that's all of our customer service, our meter reading, all of the things that we have to do to serve the customer daily. Infrastructure O&M of $154 million, water supply of $129 million, and then water quality of $112 million, and Owens Valley regulatory O&M for $37 million. Next slide. And this budget does propose spending $250 million for purchase water, which was consistent with our preliminary 21-22 budget. Next slide. So the water system fund financial plan summary, we assume 195.8 million billing units, 100 cubic feet of water, which is what we had for the preliminary budget. It's a little bit lower than what we think we currently have now from everybody staying at home. A revenue requirement of $1,532 million. Operating expenses, as we went over, of $592 million. Purchase water of $250 million. Depreciation, property taxes, and other of $248 million, for total operating expense of $1,089 million. Other expenses include $169 million for a change in net position of $274 million. This will give the water system a system average rate of $7.44 per billing unit, and will be supported by borrowing of $484 million. The next slide. This is our proposed financial plans. We are requesting approval of this budget by the commission so that we can transmit it to the mayor and the council. And with this, we just also want to note that as the budget is approved, we will be coming back during the fiscal year for our pass-through factors, where we estimate the expenses that will be recovered, and those will be based on this budget. And as the next slide. So next month, we will be bringing to the board the energy cost adjustment factors, the reliability cost adjustment factors, and the base rate revenue target. And on the power side, the bulk of our pass-throughs are adjusted quarterly, so we usually come every 3 months for those energy cost adjustment factor rates. And then on the water side, which is the next slide, we will be coming to the board next month for the base rate revenue targets. And then in September for the water factors that will be effective January 1st. And that concludes my presentation. I'd really like to thank the Budget Office for all the hard work they did. And every division has budget coordinators that pulled together this data, and they all worked hard to get this together. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you for your team for the work behind the scenes developing this budget. So I'd like to hear first from our ratepayers advocate for comments or perspective regarding this budget. Fred?
Very much, Commissioner Vice President. This improves the situation, but it only goes about 25% of the way toward our suggested increases. And our concern is that DWP is missing a rare opportunity for hiring in a downturn. The utility business is often countercyclical, and it is countercyclical this year. We have more cash. We have the ability to hire. We have the need to hire. And it's also an opportunity to work on fixing the systemic hiring problems that exist between DWP and city processes. So we think that's still an opportunity to act promptly as we're in the midst of this recovery. To make this less abstract, let's talk about customer service. Customer service at some points during this year had an 18% vacancy during a time when they're doing the customer care and billing software system upgrade, and they're expected to have a key role in managing the distribution of recovery benefits, whether it's some sort of debt relief or helping distribute payments as they did last December. So being below full strength at a time they have very important roles is not a way to be productive on this. So we've gone a little bit of the ways, under 25%, toward our suggestion, and we're also missing an opportunity to build hiring at a countercyclically positive time. I urge that DWP be given the budget flexibility in this process to expand hiring as rapidly as they possibly can toward the ultimate goal of lifting it toward $300 million this year, not spread over the next 3 years.
Fred, I have a question. What areas are you looking, do you think that we should be hiring? What does any jump out at you that you think those are the areas?
Yes. One, power system related field activities, and there were clearly the increases noted, and that area expands very slowly because of the need for a long training cycle. One of the areas is to revisit how we do that training to find or obtain staff in that area. And there are other things that we're working on in terms of total compensation that indicate the amount paid in that area may be an issue as well, a systemic problem. Two, water. Water does a pretty good job of keeping up, but they could be going faster in this area. A third area is in joint, especially in customer service, because we're asking a lot of customer service in this area to be a major component of the outreach during recovery.
All right. What about engineers or people who have had a background in engineering?
It's my understanding that's not a problem area at this time, but I stand to be corrected on that.
All right, well, I wanted to ask Marty, how many employees have already said that they don't want to come back, that they want to work from home? Because that would make a difference in the amount of people we could hire.
Yes, we don't have a firm number on how many would like to continue to telecommute. I can tell you that right now, Shannon probably has the numbers, but I think we have between 2,000 and 3,000 people that are telecommuting now. My belief is that, the majority of those would like some opportunity to continue to do so. As far as engineering goes, we have continued to staff positions and hire in the engineering ranks, even through the pandemic. There are additions in certain areas, both in water and power, where they see increased workload. I know that the new business area in power, part of that includes additional engineering staff to process new business and requests and designs. So I don't think that the staffing level that we're projecting there is an issue per se. But you're correct that telecommuting and its relationship to office space is a question, because we are looking at needing to restack this building to get ourselves a little more right-sized. But we do have quite a few more people in this building than it was ever intended to hire, and so that's also causing us to relocate to other facilities around us. We have people at Figueroa Plaza across the street. The Pacific Stock Exchange will be ready at the end of summer to move basically 2 floors of folks out of this building into that area. But there are some space constraints in the office setting that we are working through.
Yeah, because I know that my son works from home, and he's a creative writer. And although it's been quite a year with getting the kids to soccer and to tennis and then to their 2 different schools and all that, he really likes the fact that he can be at home, and that he would prefer that. So I don't know what that would mean, for DWP, whether you're hearing that as well.
Well, I know there's some folks that would love to continue to telecommute as much as possible. We are looking at what telecommuting could look like for us in the future. The city as a whole is looking at some broad telecommuting policies and looking at what classifications make sense to be able to telecommute. And certainly it's probably not as easily applicable to everybody. And also, as we talk about the building, it becomes a question of, does everybody need an office or a cubicle, or can you do what they call hoteling, where people share workspaces? And so, there's a lot of things that need to be answered also as we look to restack the building. That tells us, how many people we need to have space for, and or how to best engage them during their workday. Because certainly people need a chance to come to work at some point and check in and be part of the kind of the social atmosphere at work, where you get to know each other and work with people, and where a lot of ideas are communicated. But exactly how that looks for the future, we're still working on.
And I think the bigger conversation, Marty and Commissioner BARAD, is the hiring process that we have in the city that can stall us from hiring as fast as we want because of the civil service barriers. And I know that there had been deeper conversations about workforce development and addressing the job classification. So in terms of the budget, going back to the budget and our flexibility to hire more in accordance to what Fred has been recommending, I think we have a good start with the budget right now as being proposed. Just my question to Ann and Marty is the amount of flexibility that we have moving forward as things change, specifically because we have infrastructure programs that we need to meet in terms of the LA 100 and other regulatory and maybe there are other opportunities as well to ramp up in areas where we think are slow right now, but can be facilitated or fast track during this forthcoming budget year.
Well, so certainly, we are looking at what we can do to increase hiring in the executive ranks. As Dr. Pickle mentioned, there's a lot of issues because of the training issues, and I know that Andy and Reiko and Brian Wilbur are looking at crew structure and how we might be able to get more apprentices on board, because Apprentices are limited by the number of journey level, and so they're looking at some restructuring there, which allowed us to expand our training programs. But there's kind of a time delay. You have to get people in the program, and it takes several years to get through that. As far as other classes, you mentioned the entry level classes like the utility worker class. That has been worked on by Shannon and his folks in HR have been working on that, and we're ready to move forward on that very shortly here. All those classes are being adopted officially in the civil service process so that we can leverage the UPCT program to directly translate into jobs. That'll help us a lot with growth in our numbers, and also expanding the UPCT program to try to get more folks into the craft classes as quickly as possible. We're certainly working with personnel department on testing and testing protocols, especially for craft classes, where we need to make sure that the tests are as we're able to really reach people who are late graduating lineman college and other things like that. We continue to work with your guidance commissioner, like through LA Trade Tech and other schools, to leverage the programs that are available there. So there's a lot of parts that are moving forward in this. The flip side is that, as we know, it's difficult. It's even difficult with retirements to stay up with just keeping our numbers even, much less grow. Ideally, 1,000 positions this year, which will take us to about as I think as big as the department's ever been to meet the needs of the future. So I think, although we would love to hire faster and bring more people on in order to accomplish our goals, I think what we've got in the budget is reflective of what we think is realistic, but still on the ambitious side. We could put more money in for more positions. I'm just not sure, practically speaking, that we can get there. And my concern is always artificially driving water and power rates, and then us not being able to actually spend that money, even though we've driven the rates to collect it. So that's the balancing act that I always play. And Anna and her staff have been through this very closely, trying to come up with something that we think is reasonable and achievable, even if it is a stretch goal as it is.
On the rate issues, I think Nicole, if she's on, might note the number of times she's heard of a ratepayer advocate proposing spending more money.
Yeah.
It's not very often, and it's because we're concerned about levels of service. And the rate impact versus last year's forecast rate is 0. The forecast rate level for last year was 20.4 cents. And the rate forecast with this revised budget is 20.4 cents. So there is nil rate impact versus last year's expected, and we're concerned about impacts on levels of service.
And I would like to add that I went through those categories of cost. Operating support, which is joint and infrastructure, are base rate funded. This will be the second year we're going into a budget with no base rate increases and guaranteed 2 to 4% salary increases in our labor contracts. So as much as I'd also like to spend more, I need that rate security so that I have the financial metrics to maintain a AA bond rating for both water and power funds.
And that's something I want to touch on, just for you to elaborate on, what kind of communications are ongoing with the rating agencies. We issue quite a bit, and certainly in order to develop all the infrastructure we're going to need going forward, there's going to be a lot more. So how are you feeling about the budget as it relates to our rating agencies? What kind of feedback have you gotten, if any, from them? And as we contemplate, the inevitability of a rate case, how does that factor in?
We have been in communication with the rating agencies, and we do share that if we're going to continue on the trajectory going forward, that we will need rate increases somewhere between 4 to 7 or 8% going forward if we're going to do all the LA 100 and do all of the improvements that we want to see done and maintain strong metrics.
Yeah, and we did have a meeting with rating agencies the last 2 weeks. We've been meeting with basically all the rating agencies. We have not gotten feedback yet on, from those meetings. But Anne, will they be putting out new ratings as a result of those meetings? Is that the plan?
They will either reaffirm their current ratings or they'll give us something new. But we did share that even though we're spending more and we hiring more people. We plan to meet our metrics for fiscal year 21-22, but continue the conversation on rate reviews for this calendar year.
Okay.
Any other?
I have a question. There must be architects and engineers that actually help in the permit process for any of your the support towards development, whether it's housing or commercial institutional development. Where does that appear, and how is it described? Is it customer service, or what is it?
It would be labor, probably under Power New Business if they're helping propose new infrastructure for signing customers up. But they would be our coworkers, so they would be labor and benefit.
I see. So I get probably 3 calls a month. Like, can you help us? The permit process is 6 months delayed. That transformers that are supposed to arrive at some major sort of developments are also 7-8 months delayed. So, and it's always partly COVID, but it was also not this lack of staff. So I've done my best, and I've been working with Paul Habib to sort of try to manage that sort of request from the American Institute of Architects and the one of the civil engineering societies. So I just put that out there to make sure that it fits somewhere in the process. So one of them is like the transformers are really big. It's for the West Side Pavilion, and they just hadn't made any of the same side transformers. Somewhere in the middle of the country, they stopped making transformers, and we're waiting for them, right? So the question is, how do we make sure that people who are coming back and who are in business or want to do need support, that we're properly equipped with staff to make sure that things can move forward?
You're correct in there's a huge demand for new service, particularly on the power side. We have not seen a slowdown at all during COVID, during the pandemic. We have put some additional staff over this, but that's also reflected in the budget as we continue to increase the staff in that area.
Okay.
And we recognize that supporting development is actually one of the biggest economic drivers we can do to help the city get back on its feet.
Right.
So we have placed emphasis on that and are budgeting for that.
Right.
Yeah, one of the principles that we really would like the budget to be guided by is that the staffing should align the goals of the department and its operational needs. So let that be reflected, so that then at least we know that we have that capacity to deliver on our commitments.
I would like to understand if really people are exaggerating, or if there really are 6 to 9 months delay for permits.
We can do a presentation on that without getting a lot of detail here. I can tell you that there is a time that we tell our customers, and we're pretty good on sticking to the time, but very often customers will maybe change requirements during the course of the project, or change placement of certain facilities that then change our plans. We are working very hard to try to improve the communications to make sure that if we're waiting on the customer for some information, that they know that. But it's certainly something that we are working hard to improve our part on, but also it's not entirely the department. There are a lot of things that change during the project.
I'm sure it's not, but when they say it's sitting on somebody's desk for 6 months, you gotta believe. Anyway, you'll get to hear from them, because I'm just passing them on. Not much, but we know when it's basically 240 units of affordable housing, you want to help. You want to make sure those people can deliver.
Absolutely, and that's a priority for us. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, comments before we move on to our filed items for today? Being mindful of the time.
Can I request approval of items 12 and 13?
I think we will take that up at our when we go for the approval.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you, Ann and team. So we go to item number 9 on our filed items for 9A for the monthly reports. Office of the Chief Information Security Officer monthly report. The Power System monthly report, RPS Energy Storage and EV monthly report, and Water System monthly report are available on file. And same thing with item 9B, only for informational purposes, the quarterly status report on water quality regulatory compliance projects for the third quarter, January to March 31, 2021.
We're happy to answer any questions if anybody has a question, any of those reports.
Thank you, Marty. So we go back to our agenda. Let's go first to item 10, which is the recommendation for approval of the minutes of March 23, 2021.
Excuse me, Vice President Reyes, we included the minutes in the consent vote.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I was wondering about that. Thank you for that information. Now we can move to the items that have been selected for discussion. Item 12 and 13. Joe, we approved that individually, right? Let's go to item 12. Do I have, is there any questions on item 12? Comments? That's the budget, right?
And just for the board's information, these show up ultimately as the water budget and the power budget because those are the way that it's we're recorded for charter. And so the joint budget is a shared cost between water and power. And so all those costs that you saw for all the joint expenditures are absorbed into both the water and power budgets and reflected there. That's why there's not a separate joint budget that you vote on.
Understood. Do I have a motion to approve item number 12?
So moved.
I second. Yvette, please call the roll.
Vice President Reyes,
Aye.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Lair,
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Aye.
4 ayes, it is passed.
Thank you. Let's take up item number 13, again related to the budget that was just presented. Do I have a motion to move approval for this item?
So moved.
Yes.
Second, Yvette, please call the roll.
Vice President Reyes,
Aye.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Lair,
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Aye.
4 ayes, it's passed.
Thank you. And for item number 14, I understand Commissioner NEEMAN Brady has some comments. Go ahead, please.
I do. I just want to rise this item up for highlighting more than anything else. This agreement with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation regarding forest health projects is something that to improve the watersheds and reduce greenhouse gas emissions is something that we shouldn't let just slip into the consent calendar or the approval without it being noted. The contributions that both LADWP and the foundation are making, both from a monetary and a personnel perspective, will just continue to enhance the Eastern Sierra. And I wanted to make sure that people were really aware of this very important agreement. So that was all.
Thank you very much. I too agree with your insight. This is something that, the Inyo National Forest and working with the federal agencies, right, would help in terms of the watershed health, the quality of our water. And if even, wildfires affect the quality of our water, the snow cap, the level of snow affects our quality of water, and that investment that we have is so important. And our presence in that area is also very important, significant for the quality of water that we deliver here in Los Angeles. So thank you for that remarks, Commissioner Neiman Brady.
And
This is Nancy Sutley. If I might just add a couple of thoughts. Thank you for highlighting this item. And this is, I just wanted to point out the interesting nature of this partnership. We kind of co-manage the watersheds in the Eastern Sierra with the U.S. Forest Service, and they approached us about wanting to pursue some of these watershed protection and wildfire mitigation programs. And it's really an exciting opportunity both to show what we can do in partnership with both the National Forest and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, one of the congressionally chartered organizations that allows the federal government to enter into these kinds of partnerships, in an easier way. And then I think importantly, and part of the funding for this, we are just awaiting the final approval from the Air Resources Board to use some of our cap and trade related funds for that, because I think everybody is very interested in seeing these, what they call forest carbon projects move forward, because there are huge opportunities in land management, both agricultural lands and forests, to sequester carbon, and this will help us to show how those projects can be done in real life. But thank you.
Thank you for that. And for now, I think we have completed our regular session. Chief Counsel, we're moving to
excuse me, Vice President Reyes. I just wanted to say how I also really celebrate these efforts. I'm glad Nancy's here, and I know that we now have a new champion in DC who really wants California to shine, the new Chief Climate Officer, as in Jake Levine. So I think this is a fantastic project. So I appreciate all the good efforts, Nancy and the team at DWP with these great partners.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehr.
Vice President Reyes, before we close for recess, can you please take a vote on item 14?
Definitely, surely. Do I have a motion to approve item 14?
So moved.
Second. Please call the roll.
Vice President Reyes?
Aye.
Commissioner BARAD Hopkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lehr?
Aye.
Commissioner Neiman Brady?
Aye.
All right.
4 votes passed.
Thank you. And with that, we move to close adjournment. But I would like to propose a recess till 1 o'clock, so we can then move into closed session.
So we will recess at this point, and then at 1 o'clock, we will reconvene in closed session to address the items on number 26 of the agenda in accordance with California Government Code Section 54957.1. We will report any final actions taken therein. We are in recess till 1 o'clock. Everybody has a separate invite for the closed session portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.